The morning sun stretched across the peaceful ranch as John Miller sipped his coffee, watching his 16-year-old daughter Emily paint the old wooden fence. For him, life had finally quieted down after years of military service. But that peace was about to shatter. Within minutes, 3 HOA board members pulled up, led by Karen, the self-appointed queen of the neighborhood. Her red folder clutched tight, she walked like someone who owned every inch of the community. Karen pointed at Emily's paintbrush and snapped, "Caught red-handed, vandalizing HOA property." John froze, his cup slipping slightly in his hand. Vandalism? Emily was painting their own fence, well within their land. But Karen wasn't here for truth, she was here for a scene. Emily tried to explain, trembling, but Karen had already started recording. HOA rule violation, destruction of property. She shouted for the camera. Neighbors peeked from windows as whispers spread like wildfire. John's jaw tightened. He knew this wasn't just a misunderstanding. Karen had been after him ever since he refused to pay her special community fees. Little did Karen know, she had just triggered the one man she shouldn't have messed with, a retired Air Force commander whose ranch wasn't just home. It was restricted ground, and within 2 minutes, that would become painfully clear. John walked toward Karen calmly, his military precision intact. "You're accusing a minor without proof," he said firmly. Karen scoffed. "Proof? It's all on video." She snapped, waving her phone like a trophy, but before John could reply, a low hum filled the air. It wasn't a car. It wasn't a drone. It was deep, rhythmic, mechanical thunder. Everyone turned as the sound grew louder. Karen frowned, confused. "What is that noise?" John simply looked at her. "That's the sound of jurisdiction, Karen." 3 massive shadows crossed the sky. Within seconds, 2 military helicopters descended onto the open field beside his ranch. The blast of air sent dust and leaves flying, forcing Karen and her entourage to cover their faces. Soldiers stepped out, fully uniformed, moving with synchronized precision. Emily gasped, clutching her father's arm. "Dad! What's happening?" John exhaled slowly. "They weren't supposed to come unless there was a breach." Karen looked stunned, her camera still recording as a uniformed officer saluted John. "Commander Miller, sir, we received the alert. Are you all right?" Karen's jaw dropped. "Commander?" she repeated in disbelief. She thought he was just another homeowner, not the man responsible for maintaining part of the state's secure communications testing site that extended beneath his property, but this was just the beginning. Because the footage Karen had captured was about to go viral and bring the HOA to its knees. Within an hour, the video Karen posted online had blown up. Her caption read, "Teen vandal caught red-handed, HOA takes action." But instead of praise, the internet saw something else, a teenage girl shaking as an adult woman screamed at her. The comments turned fast, "This is bullying. Why are HOA people always like this? That girl looks terrified." Karen tried to delete the post, but it was too late. The clip had been shared thousands of times. Reporters started calling John's ranch, unaware that behind those wooden fences sat restricted federal technology. Emily, overwhelmed, hid in her room, her hands trembling as she scrolled through the comments. John knocked softly on her door. "Hey, soldier," he said gently, using the nickname from when she was little. "You did nothing wrong. Let the world see the truth." Meanwhile, Karen faced growing anger from her own neighbors. Her arrogance had turned the whole HOA board against her. But she refused to admit fault. Instead, she doubled down, spreading rumors that John was using fake military stories to intimidate people. That lie was her final mistake. Because when a certain security division saw her name appear in the media next to a classified location, they decided it was time for a visit, and once they arrived, everyone would finally learn who really crossed the line. 2 black SUVs rolled into the neighborhood the next morning, silent except for the crunch of tires on gravel. Karen stood on her porch, smiling proudly, until the men in suits walked straight past her driveway and toward John's gate. The HOA board gathered nervously as one agent flashed a badge. "We're here regarding a security alert connected to an online post originating from this neighborhood." Karen's face drained of color. online post? She stammered. John kept calm. My daughter and I were accused publicly, he explained, handing over Karen's printed video and a copy of her email thread demanding compensation for damages. The agents nodded. We're aware, Commander. The footage went viral and unfortunately, it exposed coordinates linked to a restricted site. Karen swallowed hard. That's impossible. It was just a neighborhood argument. Ma'am, the agent replied firmly, that argument contained imagery of classified infrastructure behind Commander Miller's property line. That makes it a federal breach. Gasps rippled through the HOA crowd. For years, Karen had ruled with fines, threats, and gossip, but now she was speechless. The agents turned to John. We'll handle the rest, sir. For now, we advise you to remain inside until the review is complete. And as they left, Karen realized the irony. Her obsession with control had exposed something far bigger than any HOA could imagine. Over the next week, the HOA that once stood proudly behind Karen began to crumble. Residents demanded her resignation after learning about the investigation. Mailboxes overflowed with letters, not fines, but apologies. Emily slowly regained her confidence, painting again, this time adding small golden wings on the fence, for freedom, she said with a smile. John watched quietly, pride filling his chest. Karen, meanwhile, was desperate. She visited John's ranch, trembling, clutching a manila folder. Please, she whispered, I didn't mean for this to go so far. They're saying I breached security zones. John studied her, the same calm in his eyes that once commanded pilots. Karen, all I ever asked was respect for boundaries, both property and people. Tears filled her eyes. Can you make this go away? He shook his head gently. Actions have consequences. You filmed a child and mocked her. That's something no regulation can fix. That night, Karen's resignation email spread through the neighborhood group chat. The woman who once fined people for leaving their trash cans out was gone, replaced by silence, reflection, and perhaps regret, but the story wasn't over. A week later, a helicopter returned, not for trouble, but for honor. It was a bright Saturday morning when the sound returned, the deep rhythm of helicopter blades echoing through the valley. This time, neighbors didn't panic, they stepped outside, curious. Two soldiers emerged, carrying a small velvet box. They approached John with solemn respect. Commander Miller, on behalf of the U.S. Air Force, we're here to present this token of appreciation for your continued service and protection of classified property. The officer handed Emily a folded flag. For your courage and composure, he said kindly. Not every battle is fought with weapons, some are fought with patience and dignity. Tears welled in Emily's eyes as the neighborhood watched. For the first time, people clapped, not out of fear, but admiration. Even Karen, standing at the back of the crowd, lowered her head, whispering a quiet, I'm sorry. John saluted, the sunlight glinting off the silver insignia on his chest. Thank you, he said softly. But the real hero is my daughter, she reminded us all what grace looks like under pressure. The moment felt cinematic, a perfect ending to chaos. Yet there was one final twist still waiting. 2 days later, John received a letter, not from the military, not from the HOA, but from a real estate developer. The company wrote that after seeing the viral video, they were offering to buy out the entire HOA land to build a community without a board, one focused on freedom, creativity, and kindness. When the news hit the neighborhood, cheers erupted. Families who'd once feared fines now planned gardens and weekend cookouts. The HOA charter was officially dissolved within a month. Karen quietly moved away, but not before sending Emily a handwritten note. I learned more from you than I ever did running a board. Thank you. Emily framed the note beside her painting of the golden-winged fence, a symbol of how something ugly had transformed into hope. John stood by the porch, watching the sunset. Funny, he said, smiling, sometimes all it takes to bring people together is one misunderstanding handled with grace. And with that, the Miller Ranch returned to peace, stronger, freer, and loved by all, and that was the final twist in this unbelievable HOA story. If you loved the drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment sharing your thoughts, it really helps this channel grow.